Hi folks, welcome to CNB. I'm Siddharth Vinayak Patankar. We have packed in a lot as always, so there's lots for you to look forward to. But of course, I'm going to start off by talking about this car. Now, the i8 is the perfect flagship for the BMW i brand, isn't it? Because it really looks the part, it looks futuristic, it really gets a lot of attention, but does it deliver on performance? Well, that's what I'm here to find out. We're just outside of Milan, really beautiful countryside. It is just the right setting to get started then for all the details on this car. Is it the dawn of a new era or simply another new car launch? Yes, okay, so that's not just any new car. A new sports car launch then? Well, it's both. The latest from BMW comes from its sub-brand, BMW i, and it represents everything the Bavarian carmaker wants from its future. The car looks like $1 million since it has stayed true to its concept. But more than anything else, the part that has excited me is that it is every bit the sports car it promises to be, not just a hybrid or even just a hybrid sports car. The i8 is a hybrid. There are two drivetrains that work together to provide optimal and efficient performance. The first is the all-electric drivetrain that powers the front wheels. Here you have an electric motor with an output of 131 bhp and 250 Nm of torque. At the back, it's a transverse engine mounted on the rear axle. This is the same 1.5-litre 3-cylinder unit we saw in the new Mini, though it is tuned very differently. It produces 231 bhp and 320 Nm of torque and powers the rear wheels. The combined power output of the car's twin-power turbo and e-drive systems is a very healthy 362 bhp. And BMW claims best mileage figures of 47.6 kilometers per litre, though in real-world conditions with bad traffic or maximum sporty performance all the time, that figure will still only drop to a very respectable 13 kilometers per litre. This is a sports car, folks. That is why that figure is so remarkable. The car has an e-drive mode. Press this near the start-stop button and the car will only run on battery power as a front-wheel drive. Now you can drive the car in the e-drive mode, which means that it will only run on the electric motor. Can go a distance of about 37 kilometers on the outside on just that mode before it has to switch on the petrol engine as well. Outside of that mode, when you're driving in comfort or even in the sport mode, in fact more so in the sport mode, the car keeps on sending the regenerative power back into the battery pack. So it keeps on charging, it keeps topping it up. Plugging in is not necessary though, as the car's battery also gets charged every time the petrol motor comes into play. The i8 can go 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 4.4 seconds. Top speed is 250 kilometers per hour. And just in electric mode alone, you can go as fast as 120 kilometers per hour. So even though you have the option to plug in this car, you don't really ever have to plug it in. The comfort mode is where most people will end up driving because it's a mix of the two engines, and it's where the car decides the optimal sort of power utilization. So it gives you efficiency, but it also gives you the power when you need it. Sport mode, well, I don't have to tell you what that is, do I? It pretty much relies just on the gasoline engine there, and that's when you really want that hyper performance, something that a sports car is meant to do. In sport mode though, you do send back the maximum regenerative power to the battery pack. You can also drive the i8 in Eco Pro when in hybrid or all-electric modes, where the car runs as optimally as possible, regulating gear changes and throttle response to gain the best efficiency possible. Now when you want to change the character of the car, you can go from Comfort to Eco Pro down here on the button, but if you want to go to Sport mode, you've got to switch the gear shift to the left and vroom, instantly the engine comes to life. The entire display changes as well. You go from blue to a reddish amber sort of a tone, so you know, yeah, even from the sound, that you're driving in sport mode. Alright, let's give this baby a little bit of a whirl, shall we? To do that again, there's slow-moving traffic up front. It's effortless how the car switches between the two motors, even when you're driving in comfort mode, because unlike some of the other hybrids where you have this little gimmicky screen that keeps telling you where the power is coming from, it's distracting. Over here, the car just sort of takes charge for you. It tries to give you the optimal performance in terms of efficiency, and yet doesn't take away from the fun factor at all. Gear changes are quick and the paddle shift is very responsive. The big highlight of the drive for me was simply how well the car hugs the road. The i8 has the lowest center of gravity of any BMW model today. Its width of 1942mm, which includes a 1644mm track, and a relatively low height that stays below 1300mm is also a reason the car feels so planted. And yes, the other bit I enjoyed, the i8's handling is just sublime, as is the instant acceleration. Remember, the electric motor also gives you instant peak torque, and the car very often drives in all-wheel drive mode. In fact, it has a near 50-50 weight distribution. The question you have is, does it drive like a sports car? Simple answer, yes it does. It's quite remarkable really what engineering today has been able to achieve, because well, it's got the character of a sports car. You can handle it, throw it around like a sports car, and it's reassuring in many ways that you can do that, isn't it? And that was my biggest fear going into this drive. So I'm glad. Will it be a sports car? So I'm glad the answer to that was an emphatic yes. The i8 builds on the BMW i brand's philosophy. It too uses a carbon fiber reinforced plastic or CFRP passenger cell, which is the part that houses the cabin. The chassis is aluminium heavy, no pun intended, and so despite having a petrol engine and an electric motor with a battery on board, the car weighs in under 1500 kgs. The lightweight materials help offset the use of a relatively large battery pack, which of course is always heavy. The advantages are many, says the company, but the most important of course is just how it becomes really efficient too. Inside, the i8 is also futuristic looking, almost DeLorean-like, and could very well be the car to use if Hollywood decides to reboot the Back to the Future franchise. The sports steering with paddle shifters, cabin layout oriented to the driver, head-up display, iDrive, and a Harman Kardon sound system, plus my favorite bit, the seat belts, finished in iBlue. So will the i8 reinvent the sports car? Probably not completely, but for its innovativeness, what the world will get is some of those elements becoming more and more standard across not just sports cars but maybe many others too. Now when it was a concept car way back in 2009, everybody accepted the way this car looked because hey, it's a concept. But when you get to see a production version looking very similar, very true to that, well, that's where the surprise comes in. So kudos to BMW Design to be able to deliver on that. The twin kidney grille up front has a nice, very distinct, almost in your face highlighting of that blue color, which tells you something special going on. The BMW logo as well, rimmed by that blue. And otherwise, you start to see certain elements that really do carry through from BMW's existing product lineup in terms of styling cues. However, there are of course certain elements like the doors and also these really sharp lines, things that you think maybe just from the point of view of styling, but it's also aerodynamics because it's a very low coefficient drag that the car has, just 0.24. And you can see this is the part of the car which is the most unusual. How often do you see this? I mean, this has purely been done to make sure that the car's aerodynamics go up. So very, very deep little crevice in here, comes out into the tail light treatment, very sharp, use of LEDs, no surprise. And then the bumper element, once again, bringing in that color, which tells you that this is the i brand at work here. Now you have different combinations. I do believe that the car looks pretty sharp in black, looks more real world as well, though the white and the silver also work for me. Now you remember the concept efficient dynamics to begin with. We have a little bit of a special connection with it here on CNB, don't we? Because way back then, when the concept car was on display around the world, it came to India and we had a very special interaction with the car and a whole lot of you. A quick glimpse of that, a little flashback, and then we carry on. It was exactly 3 years ago that we had our special CNV Vision contest. 30 lucky winners were the only ones to get a chance to spend so much time with us and get up close with the Vision Efficient Dynamics concept car that has led to the i8 production car. We also took you to the global unveil of the BMW i brand in Frankfurt, also in 2011, and spoke to BMW head of design on just what he's tried to go for here.
Well, first of all, I would say that our intent was to do a design that shows that the future has finally arrived. Because new mobility has been on everybody's minds, and probably a lot of people are even worried about it. Worried that the aesthetic is going to fall by the wayside, or that emotion is going to fall by the wayside. So our intent from day one was to make sure that we show vehicles that are emotional, that will be fun to drive, and that have a very high aesthetic as well as zero emission.
So for me, it's extra special to finally have the production car ready to go, and especially so with a very clear plan of launching it in India. And like I've been saying, it's heartening that the i8 is sports car-like. Despite it being just a 1.5-litre engine at the back, you know, it's nice that it has a little sporty, almost a little aggressive kind of a sound, because well, you miss that in a sports car if it's just not there. Does it sound like a V8 or a V10? Of course not. It's not going to either, but it's comforting to know that you do have a little angry motor in the back. So all this is very well, but we all do know that this car, when it does get to India, will sell in very limited numbers. It will be priced prohibitively, likely in the 2 crore plus ballpark. And while playing a great role for BMW as a proud flagship, it will still be limited to just that.